From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode number 46. Today's show is brought to you very kindly by Squarespace, Build It Beautiful, and Tapforms Organizer, an easy-to-use yet very powerful database application for the Mac, iOS, and Apple Watch. My name is Mike Hurley, and I am joined by the wonderful Mr. Federico Vitigi.
Hey, Mike.
Hello, Federico. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you in the Great Britain with the heat, with the sun? You never see the sun, so what's up with the summer there?
It's very hot right now. Right now. I feel like the sun has just parked in this country.
You could say that it's getting hot in there.
I could say that.
Yeah.
And I would say that. And that right there is the returning, fresh from NASA, Mr. Stephen Hackett.
Hey, it's so good to be back. I have missed you guys immensely. I've enjoyed listening to the show, so thank you again to David for filling in last week. But it's good to be back with you boys. This is where I belong. So
it is. We've missed you. I mean, follow-ups missed you more than anything. I just decided not to do it last week,
which is fine. I await your ransom demands for follow-up back, I believe is what you guys spoke about, but I haven't gotten any. So I thought that we could just jump right in. I think we could just hit the ground running. So last week you guys spoke about the iOS public beta. So like the OS X public beta, you don't have to necessarily be a paying developer, but you can say, hey, Apple, I would like to test your betas. And at least with OS X, they seem to release like kind of every other or every third dev release as a beta release. So you might have, 3 versions of OS X Yosemite, and then the public beta starts, and then you have some more dev builds in the public beta too. Kind of a slower pace. And I just wanted to clarify that this actually has been going on for a while. We have an article over on Engadget saying that about iOS 8.3 was the first one to be in the public beta. So it's not necessarily new, but iOS 9 is sort of the first major iOS release to be in the public beta. Now, I know you guys are probably running the developer builds at this point. I have not touched any of this stuff yet because I've been away. And I really, if you didn't listen last week, you should definitely go back and listen to especially the conversation about the public beta from a developer perspective. I thought that was a really interesting take of like dealing with people who, the barrier to entry is lower than a developer account, but kind of how you manage expectations and reviews and that sort of thing. It was a really interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out, though, like, whilst this beta process isn't necessarily new, I think an 8.3 update is very different to an iOS 9 update. And, like, the problems that we were discussing probably aren't are less likely to affect applications on a point release than on a full-blown OS, like full-blown like cycle release or whatever you'd call it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, whilst the public beta as a thing isn't new, I still think that everything that we spoke about last week is still valid.
No, absolutely, and that was really my point of, yes, like the people who wrote in to say public beta isn't new, yes, that is correct. But this is a whole new era. This is a whole new thing of having a major version of iOS, a full point release being new and on the beta. So coming up next, Federico, do you have any more car Bluetooth dashboard workflow follow-up for us?
Yes, that I don't know what I'm doing. That's my follow-up. Basically, besides the fact that I bought this accessory, like there's a sticker that you need to stick onto your car's dashboard, and then the device itself, you gotta like stick it to this magnet, right? And because of the heat in Rome, the sticker is coming off from the dashboard. Like the glue is kind of becoming like not so gluish, if it means anything to you. Like it doesn't stick anymore because it's too hot.
Yeah, it's melting.
It is melting. It's like an ugly substance on my car's dashboard. And each time I'm trying to go there and trying to push with my thumb and trying to, make it stick again, but it doesn't. So I'm kind of a bummer there. But the main follow-up is that I got a bunch of people on Twitter saying that the iOS 9 car reminders, they've been working fine for them. They just kind of connected to the Bluetooth device on iOS 9 beta 1 and beta 2, and it just works. Siri is able to recognize that they are connected to the car. And I asked different people, like, what kind of device do you have? And I got people saying, oh, I got my built-in Bluetooth like support in my car. Other people saying I got a device from Amazon. And so I don't know, because I got this little accessory called the O key from Amazon, and it doesn't work with the car reminders in iOS 9. Now, could it be? It could be that it's like a personal issue with my iPhone and the iOS 9 beta 2 in Italy. I don't know. Or these people maybe are kind of lying to me, but I don't know, because I got pretty awesome followers on Twitter, so I don't think they're lying to me. I mean, why would they lie to me? So the only theory that I have is that I got 2 readers saying that before connecting to the Bluetooth in iOS 9, the device was showing up with some kind of car multimedia property in the Bluetooth setting, which I don't see. So maybe there's like a car-specific kind of protocol or something that my device doesn't support. Although my device, I checked on the instructional manual. It's like the Bluetooth standards. It supports, I think they're called HFP and A2DP or something like. There's a bunch of different Bluetooth protocols that these devices support, and my car device appears to be kind of pretty modern. So I don't know. Basically, like I told you, Steven, I don't know what I'm doing. I guess I'll just keep waiting. I'll reinstall Beta 3 if it comes with Apple Music, and we'll see how it goes. Because right now I'm back to iOS 8.4 on my iPhone, and I got iOS 9 on the iPad. But I don't carry my iPad in my car, so I'll wait until Beta 3 and check again.
So we're going to talk a lot about Apple Music today, as you might expect, but you guys everybody spoke a lot about Taylor Swift and Eddie Q, and 1989 is on Apple Music. It was the first album that I streamed on Apple Music, so I've not really ever streamed music before, or at least to any real extent. I've never listened to 1989, and so the universe collided, and I listened to it streaming driving around yesterday. So
oh man, Steve, come on. Why?
I'm gonna give it another try. I'm not willing to pass judgment yet. I did not love it on first listen. But the streaming was fine. Streamed really well, driving around, no buffering or anything out on LTE. So
you were driving around in Tennessee listening to Taylor Swift on Apple Music.
Yes, I was. It was very millennial of me, except for my location.
Yeah.
So, as you guys know, I've been gone. I spent last week in Florida, down at NASA, of all places. Got to spend 4 or 5 days there covering the SpaceX launch. They had a rocket that was going to go to the space station, and with food and water and some experiments, some done by some 8th graders at a school in Colorado. They were testing if worms could make compost in space efficiently. So they had some worms and some garbage they were going to eat on the space station. And
what a great experiment, man! That's so
amazing. The worms didn't survive the launch, but
oh no,
yeah. So yeah, it was really cool. So in the show notes, which can be found online, Michael, I believe.
Yes, at relay.fm/connected/46.
Right.
They can also be found in space.
Yes.
If you know where to look.
If you know where to look. The little lines on our podcast logo are actually our satellites that are flying around the Earth at all times. Bada chink. So yes, I've got 3 links there, kind of talking about the experience. Got a link to a Flickr set of a bunch of images. And by the way, Flickr has gotten awesome all of a sudden. Like, that photo set looks really good. And I don't know when they decide to get better, but really a very cool experience, kind of a once in a lifetime type thing to go see behind the scenes. Like, this wasn't public tours. This was stuff that the public normally can't see, doesn't get to see. And so that was really cool as a space nerd. So I don't know if you guys had any questions, or I got a couple more things I'd like to say about it, but
sorry, a rocket blew up.
well, it's Elon's Elon and Alexander. There was their rocket, really. So yeah, so at launch we were like 4 miles away, and there's a video in that Flickr set. It's crazy that I know how sound and light work, and we were told what to expect, but even in the video you see it before you hear it, which is just a really like interesting phenomenon to experience. And we sort of saw it break up a little bit because it was over us. It was kind of hard to see what was going on. But yeah, you can find the video online. There's a video of it on SpaceX website, I bet we can find for the show notes. It did sadly break up. They're still kind of looking into it. But that said, it was still like really great to go like play journalist. We got to go to press conferences and ask questions. Microsoft was there. They were sending 2 sets of the HoloLens.
Yeah, it blew up.
Yeah, to the space station. Yeah, the HoloLens, like some guy on a boat probably, swiped them from the ocean.
That was probably a plan from Microsoft to destroy prototypes. Just blow them up on a rocket.
I think there's easier and cheaper ways to do it.
No, because then when the HoloLens doesn't come out, or it comes out late, they can just be like, oh, they blew up in the rocket.
We're sorry. Satya will be all, we tried to send it to space, but it just didn't work.
Yeah. So it was the HoloLens stuff was actually really fascinating. The plan is to use it. So if you're an astronaut and you're performing an experiment, or you're doing a task that maybe you need extra help with, so you're the training, you need a refresher, or you just need like an extra set of hands or extra set of eyes, you would wear the HoloLens, and the feed is being beamed back to Earth. And so a technician or a scientist or a doctor, whoever it is, on Earth can be seeing what the astronaut is seeing and helping place digital objects in their field of vision and get to interact with them in that way, which is like a really great use for that sort of technology. I think it's actually one of the most interesting meetings I went to. So yeah, it was cool to kind of see what Microsoft's doing there. I think it was really fascinating and a good use of it. Someone in the press corps did ask about like Google Glass, and the Microsoft guy kind of just he just didn't answer that part of the question, but it's like, really, like, Google Glass isn't doing anything. But
that is an interesting use of that technology. Like, it was interesting when they were showing like someone changing like something in their sink, but the idea of it being able to help the astronaut fix something is really kind of cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's one of those things too. Like, they were saying that NASA and Microsoft have been working on this a long time together. So the impression I have is not that Microsoft built it and then someone was like, oh, this would be helpful in space, but that sort of thinking was built into it from day one, and not just in space, right? Like if you're working on an oil platform or something else, and you need training or sort of hands-on assistance, you could use it for that here on Earth. But what was fascinating is HoloLens, if you uses a lot of sensors and stuff to kind of understand where it is and where you are in the world. And apparently all that stuff just worked in microgravity. They didn't have to like re-engineer special versions to go to space, which is just really like fascinating to me that something that on the tin is a consumer electronic device can be used in that way is really exciting, I think. And it definitely gave me a new outlook on HoloLens as a platform that I didn't have before this trip.
Yeah, it's awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. So definitely like go read those articles, go look at the pictures. I was able to learn a lot. It's really fascinating. NASA is in this transition right now. There's not a space shuttle program anymore. I got to see a space shuttle, which was really cool. But they're focusing on Mars, and I think that will be actually. I think this and that will be a topic for us in the future, like the way technology is getting us beyond anywhere we've ever been as a species before. But in this, NASA's focusing on Mars, and they're letting these other companies like SpaceX and Boeing and a couple others worry about the space station getting supplies and astronauts back and forth. So SpaceX and Boeing are in these rapid cycles to get vehicles that can fly the space station and back, and this sets them back a little bit. Fortunately, no one was hurt or killed in this, the accident on Sunday, but it was just really interesting to kind of see, like, I think I wrote it in the first piece. I used to like sort of look at my parents' generation, and like the space nerd in me would be envious that they got to see like man, like walk on the moon, and like there's not anything like the shuttle was around when we were growing up, but it wasn't the same level as excitement. And now look at my kids, and they'll be still young when we first put man on Mars, and that's like really crazy to think that that's the thing that's actually happening. And getting to talk to some of the people who are making that happen, and see the facilities and see the vehicles they're going to use, it was just a huge, really exciting thing for me. Only 30 people got to do this. I applied during WWDC on a whim, and got in, and really a lot of fun. So it was cool.
I'm happy you got to do it.
Yeah, it's. Like I told you, I think you and I spoke some when I was gone. It's like this really is like a. I felt a little indulgent, right? Because like, imagine if all three of us would feel this way if we got to go like a behind the scenes at Apple, like spend a day in the industrial design lab, spend a day here, spend a day with this group, and it was that level of excitement for me, just sort of in a different category of my interests. So, well worth the time off, even from you guys.
Are you saying that you prefer space to us?
I will say that I missed recording with you guys, but I was glad that the reason was what it was.
Well, Mike, I think you're better than Mars.
And I think that you're better than all of the solar system, Federico.
Thank you, Mike. It's good to know that I got you here.
We appreciate each other, at least.
Amazing.
This week's episode of Connected is brought to you by our friends over at Squarespace. You can start building your website today at squarespace.com, and you want to use the code WORLD. See? It's all space at checkout, and you're going to get 10% off at Squarespace. Build it beautiful. When it comes to finding a place for yourself on the internet, there is nowhere better than Squarespace. They put all the power that you need right into the palm of your hands and take away the stuff that you don't want to have to worry about, like what it takes to host your website, what it takes to scale it to make sure it's always going to stay up, or what to do if you get stuck with something. Squarespace are there to provide you with all of that stuff. And they do it as well with giving you fantastic tools to make a really professional, great-looking website without any coding required. You don't need any previous skill level. All you need to do is know how to use a web browser and to drag and drop stuff, and pretty much it. I'm pretty sure that anybody listening to this show knows that at least. And with their intuitive and easy to use tools, you can make your site look exactly the way that you want. They use state-of-the-art technology to power your site, and they ensure security and stability at all times. They are trusted by millions of people around the world and some huge companies as well. Squarespace's site templates are absolutely fantastic to look at. They all feature responsive web design built right in, and it's going to make sure that your site looks great on all sizes of device. Squarespace feature 24/7 support with live chat and email. They have teams located in New York, Dublin, and Portland who are there to help you if and when you need it. They have their commerce platform, which allows anybody to add a store to their Squarespace site. You can sell physical goods and digital goods. Whatever you want to do, you can sell it right there. This is all built on top of Squarespace's rock-solid fast hosting, and they have so much more that you should go and check out for yourself at squarespace.com. Their plans start at just $8 a month, and you'll get yourself a free domain name if you sign up for a year. You can start a free trial right now with no credit card required and start building your website today by going to squarespace.com, and when you decide to sign up, make sure that you use the offer code WORLD, WORLD, to get 10% off your first purchase, and also to show your support for this show. We'd like to thank Squarespace for helping us out today. Squarespace, build it beautiful.
So as you guys know, Apple Music is now live. We've been talking about it all month and really even leading up to WWDC, and it's been out for a couple of days now. You could say that we've been testing it for a couple of days, and we have some sort of first impressions of the service.
On principle, we've been testing it for years, basically.
Yeah.
Because we imagine this kind of service eventually coming, and now it's here.
Theoretical beta testing.
Yeah, that's a thing. Sure.
So you guys were both on Beats. Of course, there's a lot of Beats audio in this thing. The onboarding process where you have the circles where you kind of tap about the genres you like or the bands you like, and you can dismiss them. very like I really like that interface. It's very playful. That was from Beats, and of course a lot of the technology is from Beats, and of course the whole idea of human curation. You guys were using Beats, and I know they offered an upgrade path. Did that work for you guys? What was that process like?
Mike, you should go first.
It was a disaster. This didn't work at all. So this is because I used a US Apple ID to download Beats, right? Because it wasn't in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's Mike. If you go fake US, you gotta go all in with the fake
but I'm not
American
doing
identity.
Because I've had like years and years built up on my UK Apple ID, right? That's where everything is. It's where iCloud is. So I updated the app. I signed into the US App Store, updated the app, opened it, and it was like, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with you? So I press it now. It says get started. I press the button. It opens music, and it says we can only move an American Beats Music account to an Apple ID. Which doesn't even make any sense as a message. And all I can do is press OK. And then that goes away again.
Game over.
Yeah.
So you had to start over with all the recommendation stuff?
Yeah, I did all of that. And it did okay, I mean, because I have some music in iTunes, right? So, like, the stuff like the For You, which we'll talk about in a bit, it was all fine. But my problem is now I have to, like, manually recreate and re-download everything again that I want to download for offline. So that's going to be a long-term process, which I've not gotten through yet.
So for me, the process was really basically perfect because I have an American Apple ID that I use for the iTunes store, and I have a personal Italian regular real iCloud account. So, but the process migrating from Beats Music to Apple Music, it basically like associates your old Beats Music account with the App Store account. So I just updated the Beats Music app, and it told me like, hey, there's Apple Music, do you want to upgrade? And I clicked OK, and it took me to the new music app, and there was like a dialogue, and it told me, this is your App Store account. If you want to start using Apple Music, there's going to be 3 free months, and we'll give you we'll credit you $8 to your Apple ID balance because you're switching from a paid subscription. And I was done. I didn't see the bubble interface to pick my music taste again, and I just got my username from Beats Music, my following list of bands and artists that I follow, and stuff in my library, and I started using Apple Music.
Did you have to re-download your offline tracks? I assume yes.
I don't have offline tracks.
Interesting.
Yeah. I always have basically 4G or 3G wherever I go.
But so you don't mind using the data up?
No, because I got enough. I got like 20 gigs on my iPad, and I got 3 gigs on my phone. And plus, it's when I'm out and about, I'm usually with my girlfriend. And if I'm with my girlfriend or with some friends, I don't want to like isolate myself and listen to music. I want to talk to them. So usually, it's like a very rare occasion that I'm out and I need to listen to music, to a lot of music on 3G, that it would be a problem. So it's not really an issue for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stephen, did they migrate your iPod Classic for you?
I had to mail it to them, and then they brought the music over.
Just put it all in there.
It was great. It was really spectacular.
Steven, I got a Beats sticker if you want. I can like mail it to you in America, and you can stick it to your iPod.
Perfect.
You don't sound convinced.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So before we get to the streaming stuff, do you guys want to talk about Beats One, the radio station?
I most definitely
let's just do it. Let's just talk it over. So, Mike, tell me, you seem to like. Plus, you know Zane Lowe. So you're from the UK. You're familiar with this person.
Yeah, we're buds.
You're buddies. So
I tuned into the first broadcast. And it was pretty much like what I expected. Like, and I think it surprised people who aren't familiar with like the Radio 1 style of DJing, which is basically how Zane is there. Like, so a lot of the stings are like repeated, and like so the stings are like the Beats One, that type of stuff.
Always on,
worldwide. Beats One, right? So that sort of stuff, like that. They play that a lot, right? That is just a thing. I mean, I don't know about American radio, but I know that's how it is here, and people seem to be complaining about it. But the stings are there, like they're there for a purpose, like they're meant to like represent the radio station, and those things will be played a lot. They're played in the music. Like, people seemed upset that sometimes Zayn would talk during the songs. Like, this is all just a thing, and it's you either like that or you don't like that. And I do like that, because when I'm listening to the radio, I like the personality that comes through with DJs, because otherwise you could just listen to the tracks. So, like, you know, I like it when he'll like jump in during a Royal Blood song and be like, listen to this drum solo, and then there's a drum solo. Like, I like that kind of stuff, especially because I like his personality and style. I really, really loved Zayn's first set. It was just all the music that I enjoy, and it was really exciting. And he was talking about like some of the behind the scenes stuff, and he was saying like, you know, we didn't even know if we were going to be able to do this, like we didn't even have all the music we needed. Like, it was kind of crazy that he kind of just like was just talking very openly about the way that the station got set up. And since then, like, I've been tuning in here and there. Like, Zayn's show is the show that suits me the most. Some of the stuff from London and LA, it tends to be a little bit too rappy for me, but whenever I tune in, like, I can listen to it for 10 minutes and I'm probably going to find something that I like. But the big thing for me is a lot of like the special shows that they're doing, which I need to kind of get to grips with the schedule a little bit more. Like, there's a Tumblr with the schedule and it's a little bit confusing, but what it seems like it is they play the sets every 12 hours. Like, there's only 12 hours of programming every day, and then they repeat it. So it means that you've got a good shot of being able to listen no matter where you are in the world, which is an interesting way to do this, but it seems like a logical way to do it.
Yeah, I saw some complaining, I think from The Verge maybe, saying that, you know, Apple's tagline of 24 hours always on, you know, seemed not quite true. But I guess to your point, the issue is that if you are truly doing new programming 24 hours a day, like, a lot of people in a lot of the world are going to miss big chunks of it. Because you
have to repeat it, because like, if I want to listen to Zayn's show and it's at 5 a.m. or whatever, like, I can't do that. So I think it makes sense to repeat it. Like, you do 12 hours of programming and repeat the programming, but they need to get a bit better as presenters in how they talk about that. I think they need to be a little bit more aware of it, because like, I was listening to Julie, I always struggle with her surname, Adenuga's set today, and she was talking about like what else is happening this evening, but this was at like 12 p.m. So it's like at noon. So I think they need to start to be a little bit more aware of the fact that it's repeated. But these are all just like little things that will get better over time. But I think it makes sense. But one of the great things is as well that I really like is that there are playlists created of the sets. And it seems like, from what I can tell, is the playlist is created after the second time it airs. So the show might air at 5 a.m. and then 5 p.m. and then sometime after 5 p.m. they create a playlist, and you can follow each DJ in the Connect section and you can subscribe to their playlists, because everyone was going crazy about the St. Vincent
mixtape.
Everyone, and I missed it both times, but now I have subscribed to the playlist and it is awesome. But it's like, it's stuff like that. I think that this is really interesting. Like, this is exactly the kind of thing that I was looking for, because this is like, there is some, for me anyway, like, there's something romantic about radio now in 2015 and what that looks like, and I think it is about the fact, like, so I was listening, whenever I listen, like, there's stuff that I wouldn't choose to listen to, but I listen to it and I'm like, this is really cool, and it's helping me find some new stuff. And I don't plan to be listening to Beats One all day every day, but what I've been finding I've been doing, and I know this has only been a couple of days, but times where I would just be like, I don't know, like milling around the house or something, where I might not be listening to anything, or if there's just silence in the room, I just bring up my iPhone or open iTunes and just go to Beats One and press play and just see what's happening. And I really like that it's there, because it's just always there with new music to recommend to me. And I think it really is a really, really interesting thing.
Yeah, I didn't think I would like Zayn's show as much as I am liking it. Like, I can relate, I feel, to, he seems to have like an over caffeinated personality.
Yeah,
like,
he's crazy.
Very energetic.
In a great way.
And when I listen to that type of music, I feel like I'm in the same way. And having another person that kind of shares my same energy and like upbeat mood in a way, it's kind of refreshing.
Your Espresso Brothers.
Yeah, and it feels like it, and it sounds like it's contagious, right? Right, because it feels like he's having fun, and that's like I haven't been listening to radio in a long time, and it's a strange feeling having another person on the other hand and picking music for you, and and I don't think this is like traditional radio. I know that it's like, of course, it is similar to radio. You tune in and you listen to music, and there's a DJ, and the DJ, picks the songs. But it also feels like a strange, in between kind of service for now, because it's in 100 countries, right? And I was on Twitter the other day, and there was people from America, people from France and Germany and India, and all these other places listening to the same radio and the same person and the same songs at the same time globally. I feel like, yes, the basic medium is radio, but the delivery, it's not traditional radio. I mean, on the surface, it's it's the same concept, but the scale makes it different. And I agree with you, Mike, when you say it's kind of romantic, totally, because like we lost the personal touch, not just in the DJ picking the songs, but the interpersonal touch of multiple people listening to the same stuff at the same time and being able to discuss it on Twitter or messages, whatever. It's very human, and it's been only 3 days, but I think if there's one thing that doesn't get annoying over time, it's having the same feeling with other people, like empathy, even while listening to music. That's not a like a novel feature that you try it for 2 days and then okay, whatever. I want to keep having, being able to discuss with you guys, hey, did you listen to the same song? That's not a feature, that's a feeling, right? And it's different, and it's difficult to describe, because I don't want to sound too like I don't know, maybe cheesy, but it truly feels like it's a bunch of people globally listening to the same radio station. I know that there's people gonna say, yeah, but Sirius XM in America, they've been doing the same thing, but America is not the world. I'm sorry, Stephen. And when you go on Twitter and you see all these different kinds of people listening to the same music, it feels.
So I think it's important to point out that like Apple didn't create this. Like this is something that has existed. Like you could listen
radio.
to BBC World Service, right? You could, and everyone in the world could listen to it. But the difference is
it's on your phone.
It's on your phone. It's everywhere. Like and also they're making a big point of it. There's a lot of promotion behind it, which is making people listen to it. So this isn't a new thing, but this style is new for us. Like there have been times in the world where like everyone in a country or whatever, or even like people across multiple countries would sit down in front of the radio and they would listen to things together, and it was like the way that people watch TV, right? But the difference is like this type of radio, this like radio as a cultural touch point, people listening to stuff that's happening live on the radio, the music that's happening and talking about it. It's not new, but the way that this is being done is it's bringing this style to a new audience, and that's why it's like this. So like, I know there are people that are going to be rolling their eyes and saying, "Oh, we had this when I was 15 or whatever." And like, I get all of that, but this is an experience that I think the three of us probably haven't had in this way, so that's why I think we're quite excited about it. Although I don't know how you feel, Stephen.
No, I think it's great. I wanted to say this for a little bit later. I sort of have a fundamental like lack of interest in a lot of music discovery stuff. So that sort of stuff is lost on me a little bit, but I agree. I think that this is something that older generations experience. I mean, you go back to like the ancestor of the podcast being like weekly radio serials, and the entire like family, the entire nation would be gathered around their sets on a Sunday night to listen to a new installment of a show. Some of that has been lost in our world of, on demand, I can curate my entire existence type of life, right? Like I can listen to only people in the Apple space. I can only watch the news that agrees with my political views. And so I think one reason like we're so drawn to this as sort of a generation is that sort of commonality that we can share about it. I mean, Twitter has been crazy the last couple of days. People talking about Beats One, as it's happening, and that's something that I think Apple tried to get across, like in their keynote with some of those videos, like the history of music video, of trying to recapture some of that magic. Where, because at some point, and Federico, you said this a second ago about isolating yourself. Music went from a community sort of family and friends type experience to something you did do by yourself with the iPod and the white earbuds. And of course, that was going on too with the Walkman and Discman before it. And so this is sort of a mashing up of those ideas. You might still listen by yourself in your car, in your home, but you are listening to what all your friends are listening to as well. So it's really interesting.
I feel like I saw many people on Twitter kind of making the joke that Apple invented radio on the internet. And I feel like the argument that I really wanted to make is in fashion, in technology, in music, in movies, whatever, there's a basic truth, and that's that history tends to always repeat itself. And when you observe all these changes in any type of industry, what you don't have to do, in my opinion, is to stop at the idea of, yeah, this was done 20 years ago. Because the interesting parts lie in the modern twists on old ideas. In any type of endeavor, whether it's music, movies, food even, or, fashion, design, you can never... I mean, it's super hard to say, I made something that is totally new and doesn't borrow from anything old. But what's the good part is being able to kind of look at what used to exist before and what we have now, and trying to catch the little twists, the little changes. And I feel like with Beats One, in this very particular case, it's a combination of old ideas, or radio, the presenter, the little stings during the songs, that was done many times before. But today we have these devices always with us, and we can have an app, and we tune into the app, and it's the same app for everybody, and it's everybody has this app, and you go there and you tap a button and you listen, and everybody can listen at the same time in 100 countries. And there's all these modern things, like you go to a Tumblr page and you open in a web browser that's on your phone, and you can view a schedule, and the schedule changes according to your time zone. And so everybody globally can make sure that they can listen to the same stuff at the same time. And I feel like saying, yeah, but it's like radio. You're literally comparing driving around in your car and tuning into a radio station with a knob, with a dial that you need to touch, or buttons that you need to press on a small LCD display, to having a phone in your pocket that's really like a computer, and that it's available to people like across the globe. I feel like the basic idea is the same, but the delivery is modern and is new. And I feel like more companies will try to do this, because there's, again, history repeats itself, and maybe we're at the point where people kind of miss the human touch, the communality of being there with other people, even if those people are far away from you. And I don't know, it feels good. That's my overall take so far.
Let's talk about the actual Apple Music service as well. I think that it's a good first try. I think that there are some weird parts of the UI that need to be cleaned up. Like, it can be difficult at points to try and look at an artist if you're listening to them on a stream, or like trying to find some information is weird. Some of the navigation and like the UI is strange. Like if you're on a song or on an album and you press those 3 dots buttons and you get like 50 options pop up.
Yeah.
So I think some of that stuff needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but overall, I think it looks pretty good. It works pretty good. I personally haven't come into any gaps in what I'm looking for, but I know that like a few people that I know have. Like my girlfriend was looking for, is it called London Grammar? The band London Grammar. Their album's just not on Apple Music. So there are going to be some gaps, but there are some stuff on here that I've had to fight with in other streaming services, like to try and get the Black Keys, but they're on Apple Music. And then they're not on Spotify or Audio. Well, their most recent stuff isn't anyway. So I found some stuff on there which is great, and I've been able to kind of prune my library down to where I kind of want it to be. I had to get rid of a bunch of old iTunes purchases that I just didn't want in my library. But overall, I mean, I'm happy enough with it that I am using it. Like, the thing is, Beats had a bunch of foibles as well. Like, Beats was not perfect. It had a bunch of really weird stuff, and some of the weird stuff that Beats has doesn't exist in Apple Music, so that makes me happy. Like cutting off songs randomly, which was my biggest problem with Beats. But so I'm relatively happy with it, but especially as a 1.0. But there is definitely some room for improvement in places.
I have a list of things that I like and don't like. I've kind of been taking a lot of notes.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, can I just go over some of them, because maybe all of them is too much?
Yeah, looking at this document, all of them's too many. So,
but I can sum up. I can sum them up really quickly. So my basic take is that it's a really fun interface. I don't think it is confusing, but there's many aspects that, like, little tweaks and changes that I would like to see. Some stuff should be horizontally scrollable. Like sometimes I can swipe on an album or a recommendation, and it's a gallery, it's a carousel that I can swipe. Other times it's not. It's an edge-to-edge, like, visualization of 3 albums, and there's seemingly no difference visually between them. So that's kind of confusing. A big thing that's lacking for me, there's no way to always go to artist or go to album when you're listening to a song, whether it's from Apple Music or Beats One. This is one of the things that Spotify gets right. Whenever you're listening to a song, you can go to the artist of that song with the 2 taps, or to the album containing that song. And in Apple Music, you can sort of fake it by tapping the contextual menu, the one that it's like 3 meters tall, and if you tap the artwork, sometimes you go to the song, other times it does nothing, and other times again I get unknown album when I tap on the artwork. So that's kind of weird, and I feel like that menu is maybe even too cluttered, and there should be like some basically prune it down and have fewer options, or maybe have some icons instead of all text. It's like a wall of text when you tap the contextual menu. I also feel like there's some confusion when it comes to the recommendations for related artists and albums. Like when you're listening to a song or you're listening to an album, sometimes I scroll to the bottom and there's "you might also like." Other times there's not that option, so it's kind of, there's no consistency in the related media that it finds. I've been a big fan of to my surprise, been a big fan of the Connect section so far. I've discovered a couple of great bands from the Connect area, because I missed, for instance, yesterday I missed the Zayn show, and there was a couple of recommendations from the Apple channel into the Connect page. I also like that some artists are sharing like demos and snippets in the Connect area, like Trent Reznor has a couple of I think acoustic or instrumental versions of his songs, and also Zed, which is this guy does like electro pop music, as a demo in the Connect page. So I know that
I like some of that stuff. Like I've seen a few people do that as well. But like what I find is probably quite entertaining about it is like the music. I assume the music labels are contacting the artist management as like, you need to have 3 things uploaded today. Like, that's how I imagine this is right now. Like, I'm sure that at some point you're going to get some artists that really embrace it. But the fact that there was a bunch on day one is like, this was in the agreement, you need to do this. And then, like, Michael Bublé is, like, putting a piano thing up. Because I was, talking about pruning my music library, I was following Michael Bublé because I bought an album once for a Christmas mix. So I got to see Michael Bublé play a bit of piano. But it's like, it's not really a criticism, like, because it's like whatever, but it just made me smile. I just thought it was quite funny that, like, a bunch of artists were definitely, like, their label called and was like, you need to do this today.
Yeah.
I was in the same boat. You, Mike, I had a lot of artists in Connect that, again, I bought a single from, or I had some that, like, I bought a soundtrack, and, a soundtrack is usually done by, like, groups of artists, and I mean, I think Apple did the right thing from their perspective of, like, lump everybody into here that you've ever interacted with in iTunes. But yeah, I went through and definitely pared that down to artists I actually really care about, and not one that I accidentally or unintentionally followed, years ago.
Linkin Park had a selfie in the Connect page, which was kind of funny. Because they had, like, a professional intro video and then, like, a selfie taken, obviously, with the front-facing camera because it was very bad quality. It was kind of funny.
I think Connect looks really good.
Yeah, it's kind of, like, very similar to Ping in a way, but also it does more. Like, I don't remember having, like, demos and videos in Ping.
I think Ping just, like, poured in Twitter. I don't know what it did.
Yeah, it was just like text and maybe links to songs and albums on the iTunes store. This is, I mean, it's the same basic idea, but there's a modern twist in that artists can share even more types of content. I heard that if you sign up for Connect, you get a share extension on your iOS device, and you can share photos and stuff from the Photos app from other places on iOS.
That's smart.
So, yeah, they have an extension for artists, and it's quite cool, I think. Again, this is one of those things you gotta wait and see how it goes, because it could be like you said, Mike, that the labels are saying, look, you gotta go to the Connect page and for 3 months post at least two photos and a demo each week. We gotta see if this is really genuine, that it really comes from Bublé or from Linkin Park, whether they really want to share or whether it's like the assistant that is there and needs to go to the Connect page because the label said so.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I love playlists. The playlists, we were talking about them, how great we love them with Beats, but I'm finding some stuff that I'm just loving. Like, there's just some playlists in here that it's just like, well, this is just amazing. Like, a bunch of stuff, like alternative stuff and things that I really love. And so it's great to, like, they're really pushed up front, and the artwork's great, and you get a kind of a peek inside. Basically, they show, like, the album artwork of what's in the playlists. And it has all of the stuff from, like, Beats, where it's like deep cuts and non-LP tracks of Oasis is one of them that I found, and I love the playlist stuff. I think it's so awesome.
Yeah, and it's clever because in my case I often listen to indie rock and hip hop, and I have these two very different genres in my history on Beats Music and Apple Music. And yesterday in the For You recommendation page, I got a playlist from the Apple Music team for like indie and hip hop songs, and it's like there's all these tracks with like collaborations between indie artists and rappers, and it's very, very cool. Like, it shows that the more you listen, the more they learn from you, and they don't give you this computer made like list of songs. They give you this very small collection. It's like 15 songs, because there was someone who, like me, listened to these two types of music and sat down and said, okay, I need to put together this kind of playlist, because it's clearly not made by a computer. It's from someone who knows what is recommending to people, and that's really clever. I do miss from Beats Music one of my favorite feature. When I went to the artist page, you could browse, and there was very clever organization. Singles, albums, compilations, EPs, remixes, remastered editions. There was all this metadata was kind of used to better organize albums, and instead in Apple Music it's just albums and everything is thrown in there. So if you go to the Oasis page, you see the albums, but you also see the singles, all the compilations, the EPs, and I feel like that feature in Beats Music was really well done, and I really want to see it in Apple Music again. So what I wanted to kind of ask you guys, as an app, I feel like the interface is really fun and modern, colorful, and it's got this kind of personality even in the interface that I like. And as we talked about Beats One, and we talked about the aspects coming from Beats Music, so the curation and the recommendations in the front page. I want to take a look at the big picture, because there's many small problems in Apple Music, whether it's how you manage your queue, or as I just said, the organization of albums, the love shortcuts that you tap to say, hey, I like this song. Sometimes it doesn't work. iCloud sometimes it doesn't put the albums that you add to your library back to your Mac or your iPhone. So there's many small issues, and I like to see those resolved. But taking a look at the big picture, I want to kind of talk with you about what Apple wants to do with this. And I feel like when it comes to this service, like you search for music and you stream music, even with all these small problems, the basic stuff is done, and now they need to kind of just, tweak here and there and improve. But there's just so many ways you can search. And at one point, what else can you do with basic search or, the new page? That's just the basic of streaming, and that's done, I think. Like, done in the sense that it's only iterative improvements from now on. And I feel like the areas where Apple Music really will grow and where we will see innovation and changes, like very global scale stuff, that's in the Beats One and Connect. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, so I have a couple of ideas. The Beats One sounds like, obviously, an international expansion is in the cards, and I can only imagine like local channels, or an Italian Beats One or a French Beats One.
Well, I don't think it will even be Beats One. Like, I mean, it's clear to me in the name that there will be a Beats Two,
Beats Italy, Beats France. Yeah, of course. So I'm thinking international expansion, and for Connect, I also see a lot of potential there. I mean, right now, you go to Connect, you see a selfie, you listen to a demo, see a video. But can you imagine, like, I'm seeing a lot of artists already share screenshots of concert dates and locations. And it seems so obvious to me that one day you will be able to buy tickets for a concert with Apple Pay inside Connect.
That feels like a natural evolution, like, because I mean, if you look at where, I mean, I'm in complete agreement with you. If you look at where it is now, where Apple Music is right now, where Connect is right now, the bones of the service are there. So now it's a point of like, where do you go next? Okay, so we keep adding things in, right? So what's first, right? Well, let's add merchandise so you can buy band T-shirts with Apple Pay. Fine, let's do that. That's done. Great. And then different merchants can set up their stuff in Connect. Oh, let's get merchandise in there now too. Right, great. Let's do that. Merchandise is in there. And then you start seeing like more exclusive stuff, like iTunes has been doing forever, and you end up with Apple Music is the only place to buy X person's album. I mean, because it really just means like, where are they going? And the idea is now they have a bunch of people on staff who have been music executives for years. So it's like, well, what do they do next? Does Apple become a label? Like, what do you do? Like, where do you go with this? Like, if you keep stretching it out, there is a lot of different places that Apple could take this if they really, really want to flex their music muscles. And buying a company like Beats and bringing on everyone that brings on, and keeping those people on staff, it does say to me that like Apple is waking up again to how important music is in their business.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they kind of slept for a bit. And and I think that there's something key to say that like music was one of the things that saved Apple. And maybe they're realizing again just how much of an impact that can have for their core business.
because it's, music is, again, almost everybody likes music, and or listens to music, at least on a daily basis. And it's one of those things that clicks for people, when you're able to listen to music in a way that's easy, shared, friendly, and relatively cheap. I feel like people can relate to that. And what you mentioned about, Apple working with the industry, it feels to me like Apple wants to help the industry, help the fans of music, and help themselves, of course, because people will come to rely on Apple Music and will buy maybe iPhones, or at least pay Apple a subscription to use Apple Music. So in this way of helping different, working towards different goals, but with a common product that can, help people listen to music and pay for, again, maybe in the future, concerts or t-shirts or like exclusives. I feel like that with the simplicity of an iPhone and maybe Apple Pay, Touch ID, all this stuff, you remove a lot of barriers, you remove a lot of friction from not just listening to music, but the world that gravitates around music.
Yeah, the whole experience.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, tell me before we move on, what are you going to do with Apple Music? Do you think that you're going to use it, or are you going to go back to your hand-picked library that you have nurtured?
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I've streamed some stuff, like we talked about earlier in the show about 1989 driving around town. I don't know what I'm going to do with Apple Music yet. I've done some streaming. Part of my issue with it is that during the day I'm at my Mac, and while there are issues in the UI and UX of the iOS app, in iTunes it really feels just grafted on to what they already had. So, a lot of people, this is a return to iTunes who maybe haven't used it in a long time. But as someone who's been in it every day for like a decade, it definitely feels added on in sort of a weird way, where it's just sort of in the music tab across the top. I was expecting it being a little more broken out. That's sort of one of my key problems with it. There's a lot of like blurred lines between your local library, what is available to you on iTunes Match if you pay for that, which I let my subscription expire this year, and what is on Apple Music that you have downloaded locally to listen to. So it's I understand why they're doing it. I mean, obviously Apple doesn't want you to worry about library management anymore, and that's fine. It's not for me. But for those of us who do want to keep local music and then use this to augment our libraries, I wish it were a little bit clearer where things are and what's available to you where. There's been a lot of conversation online about, hey, I told this album to download to my phone, but iTunes doesn't see it because I have iCloud Music turned off, but I have it turned on, it does this other thing. There's a article by our friend Christina Warren yesterday on Mashable saying that if you start mixing these things, iTunes will blow up your metadata in your local library, which is not super great. So for me, it's just that lack of clarity is a problem. But I think where I may settle, depending on how this trial goes, is having my local library and then streaming things that aren't in my library that I want to listen to, but not really mixing the local downloads in very much. But we'll see. I mean, it's only a couple days old, and the 90-day trial is so brilliant for people like me who are really on the fence about this sort of thing. I think I'll have a pretty definitive answer by the end of the trial.
There's so many differences between the way that you listen to music and the way that I listen to music. Mm-hmm. Like, I almost never ever browse my library. Every time I want to listen to music, I either go to the recommendations page, so I let the service give music to me, or I search for music, whether it's text search or Siri. Now with Apple Music, I never just go to my library and scroll and I go to the artist and I say, yeah, I want to listen to this one. I just either search for a song or an album, or I let the service, push music to me. So it's interesting to hear. Like, I didn't even think about the problems, for iTunes Match and iTunes libraries. So that's fascinating to hear, Stephen.
Yeah, and Sarity's done a lot of good work over at iMore explaining those differences. And I mean, if you sit down and read all that stuff, it does make sense. But in the UI, Apple should clear that up. And it's sort of like, for me to back up from music for 1 second and kind of talk about Apple. like this is kind of two products in a row following the Apple Watch where the UI is complicated and not immediately obvious to everybody. And I understand this, like the music app is doing a lot of stuff now. And you can go into settings on iOS and turn some of it off. You can rearrange some of it. Same thing in iTunes, you can turn it off. But there's a lot going on in here, and my concern is that it's not immediately clear what to do. Not from a I might lose my music standpoint, but from a like Apple is not doing super great at complex software UI design right now, and I would like them to be better at it.
But is the watch really confusing?
I think
after 2 months.
I think once you get used to it, it's fine. Like I never second guess myself now, but it took a while, and a lot of people. A friend of mine just unboxed one yesterday, and she was like, "How do I?" I mean, she was asking me very simple questions. That I think her assumption was that she could just turn it on and start using it, because for a long time that's how Apple products have been, and you can grow into this. And I think after maybe even as much as the two of you have used Apple Music, you already have the UI down, but that learning curve is a new thing to a degree. And so I would like them to. I don't think the answer is to do like iPhotos for iOS had, where it's like a UI overlay with a bunch of errors on it. Like, please do not do that again. But I think there's just room for clarity, and it's a 1.0, and it's clearly they had the issue of they're sort of smashing beats in the existing music app together, and that's just a lot of work to do. So I think overall they did a good job. I just wouldn't mind a little extra polish on it. Is really all I'm saying.
Cool. Right, let's take our second break, and then we have a couple of little quick topics that we want to get to today. This week's episode is brought to you by Tapforms Organizer. Tapforms Organizer is an easy-to-use yet very powerful database application for the Mac, iOS, and Apple Watch. If you remember Bento for the Mac, then this app is going to blow you away. Tapforms comes with a large selection of ready-made forms just waiting for you to fill out and customize. But of course, you can create your own forms as well from scratch with zero programming knowledge required. The Mac version has a custom layout designer that enables you to easily create professional-looking forms with your own company logo, photos, checkboxes, pop-up buttons, and so much more. And ex-Bento users will be thrilled to know that Tapforms also includes a native Bento template importer. This makes Tapforms the best and easiest way for Bento users to retain all their data and move forward without having to purchase a more expensive alternative. Tapforms will also let you sync your data between all of your devices using iCloud or Dropbox, share from form templates with friends, families, and co-workers. You can create your own labels. They have their own printing engine that includes over 1,000 Avery label templates, and you can print 24 different types of barcodes as well, including ISBN and QR codes if that's your bag. You're able to import and export from Excel and Numbers, and there's just so much more. I could be here all day telling you about all the features that this app has. It's really, really something special. You should go and find out for yourself at tapforms.com. That's tapforms.com. If you have any need for a database app, you should be checking this out. Thank you so much to Tapforms Organizer for sponsoring Connected. So Bento, man, haven't heard about that in a long time.
Yeah, that brought me back.
Yep.
I had a custom Bento job, or a custom Bento template at an old job to track stuff, and it was brilliant. So Federico, I assume you're starting the hard work of your iOS 9 review?
Yes, I have. I started taking notes. Well, I'm taking notes. I'm still gotta watch some videos from the WWDC sessions. My plan this year is to kind of do more. I want to have a proper iOS review, because I feel like in the past few years, it's never been like a full-on review. It's been more like always a story, like an opinion piece, very in detail sometimes, but still an opinion piece that didn't cover all of the features. I just took like a sort of, here's what I use in iOS, and that this is my article about it. And this year, I feel like it's appropriate to kind of maybe sometimes even force myself to use Apple apps that I wouldn't normally use, and that's leading to some interesting discoveries so far. Just like using Apple Mail or using notes or reminders or the podcast app, because I feel like I've been using iOS for so long at this point, and to do anything for the website, I use it every day, whether it's on my phone or my iPad, and I feel like I kind of owe it to my readers to have a like more in-depth, complete review of iOS. So the approach that I'm taking is I cannot cover the more technical aspects, but I do want to write about and I want to test all of the consumer facing aspects of iOS 9, and I kind of want to try to see whether in these during this summer I will be able to kind of talk to developers who are using some of the new APIs in some new apps that don't, these features are not available in the system. Like I'm thinking about there's a new way to record gameplay in video games on iOS, and you can share a video, and I want to see if, Apple doesn't use this. So when you set up a new iOS 9 device from scratch in September, you won't be able to see this feature. But maybe there's an app that will be able to use this new gameplay recording API. And I want to see if maybe in my review I can sort of talk about the APIs in a way that's more practical, because I have examples. So this is why I'm taking notes. I'm taking a look at the more accessible sessions that I understand, and I want to talk to developers. I want to see if my review can go very in detail in a bunch of different features that I wouldn't normally cover. And I want to see if I can have examples of what I'm talking about, instead of having just a list of here's what's new in Safari, here's what's new in Notes, here's what's new in Podcasts. And this is kind of the approach that I want to take. And also see, of course, once I'm on iOS 9 full time on all my devices, because right now I'm back on iOS 8 on my phone, I want to see how it changes the way that I work. And especially, obviously on the iPad because of multitasking. But that's been a slow process so far, because I don't want to write while I'm still digesting the information. And I feel like I don't have a complete thought around iOS 9 until all the apps that I use on a daily basis, or at least my most used ones, are updated to take advantage of iOS 9. So
obviously you mean with betas though, right? Because otherwise your review would be really late.
I'll need betas, and so far some developers have been using Hockey again to put builds for iOS 9 for testing. We're all waiting for TestFlight to start accepting iOS 9 builds for external testers, because right now it's only for internal testers for a company. So I'm talking about betas, and I feel like I've started an outline. I have a basic structure. I have the introduction. I've already written what I basically like 5 paragraphs of what I want to open the review with. But so far, I only have many notes in different notes in the app. So every time I go over a session video or a particular feature, I create a new note, and then I basically have the outline of what's new, like the basic summary, and then my thoughts at the bottom. And I'm also keeping a list of features and problems that I want to see or that I encounter with the iOS 9 betas. All the problems and all the feature requests, I create a radar on the Apple bug reporter, and I save the number of the radar that I need to that I submit to Apple. And when it's fixed, I eliminate the note from the Notes app. If it's not fixed, it'll become a problem in my review. So I'm taking this approach. I want to see how it goes. I feel like later this month, or maybe even in 2 weeks, I will be able to start writing. I'll be like in lockdown mode for a month, and I'll see how it goes.
So, Federico, you are using the Notes app with iOS 9, I assume?
Yeah.
Are you writing in there, or is that just sort of research, kind of outlining phase, and then you're moving into editorial to actually write?
Yeah, I'm just taking notes and, like very small ideas and points. So far, it's like outlines and brief notes. I wrote the intro in the Notes app, but I feel like I should move that to editorial and start writing from there. Because every time I write, for me, the main problem is like seeing the empty document, the page below, like no text, and that like huge hole of emptiness is my biggest problem when getting started with an article. And so I think I'll just put the outline in there, like merge different notes in a single text file in editorial and just start writing and without worrying about the outline. And I can put together a very long review in 2 weeks if I want to, but I want to kind of take a slower, more considerate approach this time. Again, because I want to kind of do more, and I kind of want to offer the readers a more complete look at iOS from the perspective of someone who really uses iOS. So I feel like I need to be a grown up this year. Yeah.
No, I think it's great, and like I know I'm the same way. I'm always the hardest on myself, like when it comes to past work. But I think you have covered iOS really well in the past. But I kind of see what you're saying. Like there hasn't really ever been like a Syracusean level of iOS review, and you're the guy to do that, and you'll do it for 10 years, and then you'll have to retire. But
no, I don't think so.
I'm excited because one thing that you're good at, and that Syracuse was good in his OSINT reviews, was like finding the little like nooks and crannies of the things. So the three of us were talking before we recorded about a way to like rearrange the share sheet stuff, and like one of us wasn't aware that's the way it worked, or that it could work that way, because there are multiple ways. Same on the Mac, there are multiple ways to get things done sometimes, and so seeing all that detail fleshed out, I think is really exciting. Seeing sort of the fine-grained details about like, well, what can you do with notes? Like I know from Apple's website I can do bulleted lists, and I can do a bunch of rich text, and I can do photos, but what are the limits of that? How far can I push it? What is reasonable to do within it? I'm excited to read that as someone who uses iOS every day, not as like my primary system, but we'll talk about more next week. But like, I've got a lot of stuff going on, and like I'm changing some of the ways that I work, and I want to be able to use the iOS more. And so, that coverage is something that excites me as a Mac Stories fanboy.
Thank you.
No pressure, Federico.
Oh, wow.
Like Steven's, he has no expectations for you, clearly.
No, it's like just start writing, buddy. It's fine. I'm trying not to think about maybe getting people excited about this. So maybe even talking about it on the show was a mistake. But maybe instead it was like therapy. I can talk in the open about my plans, so I don't have to live in secrecy anymore. And I can also, if you want to, like have progress reports.
I would like that very much, actually. That's what I was about to suggest. Because look, at the end of the day, this is like, it's not a secret that you're going to do something, so we may as well talk about the process of it a little bit as well.
It's very like open development, like early access to my reviews.
We're greenlighting it, man.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, I'm just I gotta go over some final session videos, and then I think I'm good with starting the writing process.
Cool. All right, guys, I think that about wraps it up for today.
Yeah.
So there is just one last thing that I wanted to mention before we finish today. We have a new show on Relay FM, which is an interesting thing for people that listen to this show, but I think it's something that they should check out. It's called Material. And Material is a show all about Google and Android, which is, come on, guys, I want you to be open here, right? So the show, its hosts are Russell Ivanovic, Andy Anatko, and Yasmin Evgen, and they're talking about everything that happens in Google and Android. And one of the conceits of the show, one of the things that they care about, is to create a show that has this topic, but is created to be listened by everyone, right? So they want Apple users to listen to the show, and it's something that I wanted, and I know that we wanted for a long time at Relay, is to be able to create a show about Google and Android that can be listened to by anyone, so people can kind of like keep up with what's happening in that world. And I think it's going to be something that's really cool. The episode 1 and a special episode 0 is out, and you can check them out now at relay.fm/material. And I think that you should, because it's going to be awesome, and it is awesome. I've already heard the first episode, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So please go give it a listen.
Yeah, it's real quick. It's a super exciting. We've talked about, like you said, talking about doing a Google show for a long time, and Russell and the group have done such a great job making it accessible. I was listening to episode 1 the other day, and it's their approach to it is not Google's is the only way, but again, like we all live, I mean, they even talk about it in the show, like we all live in multiple ecosystems. Like we've talked about it here where we use Apple hardware and we use iCloud, but we also like use Google Apps. Like Relay runs on top of Google stuff, and the reality is that most people at least don't live in a single company's camp, but we bridge and we do different things. And so approaching Google the way that we approach Apple here on Connected, I think the two shows are very complementary in that way, and you should definitely check it out. It's really great, and we're just so thrilled to be working with those guys.
So that about wraps it up for this week's episode. If you want to find the show notes for today, you should go over to relay.fm/connected/46. Thanks again to our sponsors, Tapforms and Squarespace. Thank you for listening. And also thanks to my co-host, as always, Mr. Stephen Hackett, who you can find on Twitter. He is at ISMH, and he writes at 512pixels.net. And Federico Viticci at Viticci, Viticci. He writes at macstories.net. And I'm Mike at IMYKE on Twitter. And we'll be back next time. Until then, say goodbye, guys.
Arrivederci.
Adios.